Welcome back to A Considerate Life. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, like the video, comment in the comment section, all the things.
You know the thing.
Today I want to talk about how the very notion of mental health can lead us to the threshold of the existence of God. I think the notion of mental health can do this in two ways. First, if we ask the question, what is the mental in mental health? Right? What are we talking about when we talk about mental health in terms of the mind? Are we talking about simply, and somebody may concede this, are we talking simply about neurochemistry? When we say mental health, do we really mean neurochemical balance? And I know there are things that can be treated pharmacologically, that is with drugs. This is why we have antidepressant medication, antipsychotic medication, right? So I'm not denying that there's a neurochemical aspect to overall feelings of well-being or staving off things like depression, right? Or anxiety, right? But what I am saying is that a view of mental health that sees mental health simply as neurochemical begs the question, what is the mind? Now, I've done these other videos on what is the mind and consciousness, videos on Philosophy 101 where I explain this sort of philosophical anthropology, where I assert that the mind, in part, is this naturally immaterial aspect of the human person. Now, the mind is not something independent of the body. It's part of the ontological unit that we call the human person, but it is immaterial. So given that, the notion of mental health can lead to the idea of the existence of God via the question, what is the mind? And if we answer the question, what is the mind, it's not simply the brain, but it's some immaterial aspect, then mental health goes beyond something that is a medical condition. It's something that goes beyond the mere physical, and it has to do with ideas and beliefs and the emotions that follow from those things, right? There seems to be this transcendent spiritual aspect to mental health, and that can lead us to discussions about the nature and existence of God. So that deals with the mental in the mental health issue. But what about the health? The idea of health brings us right into the middle of the discussion, or the idea that there are ways that humans should be, and there are ways that humans should not be. Imagine a person who flies into a psychotic rage at the slightest provocation, right? Or somebody who just completely breaks down crying when they don't get their way, or something like that. We would consider these people to not have good mental health, to be mentally, emotionally unstable individuals, right? All of that assumes that it's better to be a tolerant, patient person than an intolerant, narcissistic person, right? But all of those judgments, all of those mental health judgments rest on this more fundamental idea that there are ways that humans should be and ways that humans should not be, right? And that really flies in the face of this kind of relativism that we have in the atmosphere of our culture. Do what you want, your truth, whatever's true for you, and may not be true for me. The idea of being a healthy individual resting on the idea that there are ways that humans should be and ways that humans should not be in order to be good humans. That brings us directly to questions of natural law, right? Questions of human nature, right? An objective human nature that becomes the standard by which we measure individual humans. Mother Teresa was a good kind of human, and Hitler was a bad kind of human, objectively, right? But what is objective about that? What is objective about that goes beyond individual judgments? It goes beyond societal constructs, and it points toward a more transcendent ground for ethics, for morality, for these moral judgments that this is bad and that is good. Well, all of those are sort of right near the question of mental health, because as I said, mental health presumes that there's a way that humans should be and ways that humans should not be. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say, is just that the notion of mental health in two ways can point at or raise upon analysis, can raise further questions that bring us to the question of the existence of God. The notion of the mental as being not just simply reducible to the physical, but something immaterial about humans, and also that the notion of health points to an objective human nature that may have its root in a transcendent cause. Right? So in those two ways, I think the very notion of mental health points to or can raise questions about the existence of God. Now, in the next video, I actually want to go to something that Jordan Peterson talks about. He talks about rough play, rough and tumble play. And I want to use that as an analogy for us to reflect on the way in which we relate to our Heavenly Father. So we'll talk about that next time.